Welcome back to another episode of the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Today we're talking about why you should have an attorney, not the nursing home, help you with asset protection. This came up recently when I was talking to someone who said, I just think I'm going to let the nursing home help me out. Well, if you're thinking that, this podcast is for you. We're going to talk about the advantages of an attorney, how we help, how we make things go a lot smoother. So buckle up and welcome back to another episode of the Hearse Chaser podcast show.
You're listening to the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Here's your host, Stephen McClellan.
All right, so I have a whole lot of things to talk about in this episode, and a lot of the topics that come up are things that we as a firm talk about, things that we think other people need to hear this. There needs to be a better discussion or understanding of, the complexities of things. And if you haven't, please go over and check out the Hearse Chaser website. In fact, if you like this episode, if you found good information, our stage 7 is all about long-term care. So I'll start there by just talking about some of the terms that are used before we dive in. Sometimes people refer to it as crisis planning, long-term care planning, Medicaid, asset protection, elder law. All those terms are kind of the same thing. That is, you have a loved one that is in a nursing home, and you want to know how to protect assets. So we're going to talk about the importance of having an attorney. Okay, here, a lot of people have come to me, and this is what they say: I just don't feel comfortable with the nursing home. And I completely understand that. There is a big difference between coming to an attorney. Our job is to protect your interest, right? To protect your assets. A lot of people, and I think this is a little unfair, a lot of people, they complain about the nursing home, where they say, I don't ever want to be in a nursing home, or they say they just don't take good care of people. And yet, if that's true, do you also want those same people to help you with the assets, right? Do you trust them to care for those things? So, I think nursing homes do a wonderful job providing services to some of the most challenging individuals, patients. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of challenges, and I think it's a blessing that we have nursing homes that do take care of folks. Of course, we would all love our loved ones to be with us in our home, but sometimes that is just not possible for so many reasons. A lot of times, they often need 24-hour care, and the cost of 24-hour care in the home is just way more than the cost of a nursing home. And honestly, sometimes nursing homes do a better job than the family would. That's also true. It's also true that when a nursing home takes care of your loved one, you, as a child or surviving or a spouse, you can visit them and have actually a better relationship with them. That is, you're not constantly burnt out and stressed and worried about so many things when they're in the home with you. For example, I'll never forget, a client, I think it was, I don't know who it was, but, their spouse was calling the cops on them because they didn't know, who is that strange man in the house, right? This happens all the time in America, that when people have dementia and Alzheimer's, they forget their kids first, typically, and then they forget their spouse. And all they know is to call 911 because there's a strange person in the house, okay? So it's very hard to keep that person in the home 24/7. It's very hard because a lot of them don't sleep well. And so that's when the 24-hour care comes in. So I think the number one reason why people call us and they say, I want to have an attorney is because they recognize that the nursing home is a business and they want money. And so they often don't provide strategies. Their typical strategy is, just spend down the money to $0 and then we'll help you apply for Medicaid. And Medicaid is that benefit that helps cover the difference between someone's income and the cost of the nursing home. So they will spend down and then they'll say, well, you got no assets, then we'll help you. Okay? The thing is that the nursing home has no incentive to accelerate those Medicaid benefits, to help the family get the benefits sooner. They have no real incentive to help the family protect assets. And so that's where the attorney comes into play. So here are just a number of reasons, okay, that an attorney, I think, is a better choice than it comes to having the nursing home do your application. So first, we represent you. That is, we have a duty to do what's best for you. So we have to talk about strategies. And I think this is important to know, at least in my practice. In my practice, there are cases that are very simple. And I have said, look, you don't really need to pay me. I think you should do these things and then turn that back to the nursing home. And so I probably send a number of people back to the nursing home, or they'll come to us for a second opinion. I'll send them back and say, I think they can handle it. You don't really need an attorney for this. But that other relation, it's not like they're sending people to us and say, I think this is more complicated. Or sometimes they don't dive into it deep enough. So I think sometimes they want to keep everything in their control and know what's going on. And there's some reluctancy not to be able to take care of everything. All right? So one of the things we as lawyers have to know is that we can't have a conflict of interest. I don't have a conflict of interest. I don't work for the nursing home. I'm not on their payroll. And so I am interested in my client's benefit, not how this application, how this process is going to affect the nursing home. Now, one thing I want to tell you about Stage 7 that we've put together is we put together an individual track and a married track. So there's different strategies whether someone's married or an individual. And so in that Stage 7, it's well worth your time to walk through the appropriate stage to learn the different techniques and how things are able to be protected, because there's different rules there for different families. Number two, when you have an attorney, a law firm, our firm, for example, is that we have a dedicated person to help you through the process of getting approved for Medicaid. The thing about most nursing homes I have found is that there is a whole lot of turnover, often in the business office. Okay, so a lot of times the person you talk to is not the same the person that was there 6 months, 7 months, and the turnover and the training is just not there. Okay, and that can be, it's very evident, right? So one of the things the person in the business office is doing, they're sending out invoices. Okay, that's what they're doing to a lot of the folks that are on private pay or sending out invoices. It's a very different thing to have somebody dedicated to that process of helping you walk through that process, okay? Because the biggest concern, the biggest thing people want, they just want answers and clarity. And anytime you hire an attorney and you go through a process, know this. You should always ask yourself, who am I waiting on? Am I waiting on DHS to make a decision? Sometimes you're waiting on the nursing home to do something like to get paperwork saying that your loved one is in their facility. Sometimes you're waiting on the attorney to do something. Sometimes we're waiting on you to get some documents to us. So you always ask the question, what are we waiting on? That's a fair question to ask all the time. And you should always know kind of what you're waiting on, or in other words, what is the next step. And one of the things I've done is knowing those questions that people typically have. I kind of walk them through, and I stay ahead of them, because I often answer the questions even before they've thought it. Okay? I'll give you an example. Clients will often say, well, how does the nursing home get paid? Okay? The process itself can take 3 months to 9 months, sometimes even longer in rare circumstances. And during that period that the application is pending, you have a patient responsibility for mom or dad, okay? And that patient responsibility generally is the income. So if someone has Social Security of $2,000, you can deduct health insurance and $40. Whatever's left, let's say $1,700, that's what goes to the nursing home. However, the room may cost $8,000. Well, that's a big difference, right? That's $8,300. Who pays for that? We know this is a question clients have. And once it is approved, then the state will reimburse the nursing home. So as you can imagine, it's very difficult on the nursing home. The fact that they have a cash flow problem of $83,000 every month, or I don't know if I said 8. If I said it's 8,000 and it was 1,700, well, that'd be 6,300, okay? A significant amount of money. There's a cash flow. But they're going to get the money when it's approved. Now, here is where I say, look, I represent my clients. It's hard enough for my clients to go through the process of putting their loved one in the nursing home and doing all the things they have to do. It is not their worry about the nursing home's cash flow. Okay, they can figure that out. They're going to get their money, okay? But we've got to make sure the application goes smoothly. That benefits my client. It also benefits the nursing home too. So having someone dedicated, I just don't think you can replace that. Having somebody to call and just clarify things, because the documents you get from DHS, they are so confusing. There's 4 pages and only 1 paragraph matters. Or sometimes they're in conflict. And so you need someone to help read these to you and explain them to you, or know what you have to do, if anything, at all.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Our mission is to be your first choice for last wishes. Want to dive deeper? Join us over at the Hearse Chaser Academy, where we've created 8 on-demand courses for each stage of life. From young adulthood to retirement, navigating separation or blended families, and everything in between, we help you plan for the future, no matter where you're at. Now stay with us as the ride continues on the Hearse Chaser podcast show.
The third thing is, I see a lot of mistakes. In fact, some of our best clients are ones who either tried to do it on their own, or the nursing home did it and did it wrong. I look at some of these situations, and the application should never have been filed in the first place. It never was proper. That is, the applicant, the person in the nursing home, they didn't fit the financial picture necessary to qualify. One of the biggest ones is that applicant has to have $2,000 or less in their name. And whether it was not good enough due diligence, or whether it was, well, let's just file it to file it, because the nursing home is trying to meet some quota with the organization that owns them, I don't know, but should have never been filed in the first place. And when those mistakes happen, the question is, who's holding the bag? Who has the responsibility of that mistake? And oftentimes, the nursing home, who was so eager to help, often turns very adversarial and says, well, now you owe us this money, tens of thousands of dollars. They'll send invoices for $30,000, $40,000 when it should have never gotten to that point. Now, in those situations where we come into play and we have fixed it, okay, then the problem is the nursing home is still, well, you still owe us money. Well, they wouldn't have owed you the money had you done it right in the first place. And that's really where everything shows, is when they don't get their money and there was a mistake, it's a concern. And so when there's turnover in that position, sometimes as we go through this, we are educating not only the DHS caseworkers, but we're also kind of educating the caseworkers too about the process and telling them, well, this is why you don't have to worry about that because of this or this, right? And some of it is, it's not really the nursing home's fault. It's a very complex system. And one of the things that's frustrating is the state tries to use systems to make things easy for them. Sometimes they'll kick out a denial. They'll deny the whole application, the whole thing that we've been working on, they'll deny it. And we'll reach out to them and say, there should have been no reason this was denied. Like, oh, yeah. You're right. Our system just automatically denies it. Or, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. That is a huge emotional concern when you find out your family has been denied. Getting a denied letter from the state is a significant thing, right? Having someone dedicated to it that can go and say, no, that's a mistake that was made by you, DHS. You should not have done that, okay? Helps you know that it's on them, okay? So pointing out who's doing the right thing is important. Those mistakes, right? We go through a system to make sure we have an application that is ready to file, that it's appropriate. We don't just file to file. It's got to be right to file, okay? And a lot of times, if you just take the position you just have to spend down the money, that's not quite right. Sometimes it's spending down the money or realigning it. That's what I like to refer to it. Sometimes we move money in a different way and it works. It's qualified. Okay. Number 4. The reason to hire an attorney is a lot of times we are there to protect family assets. Okay. There are ways to protect the spouse. Okay. And so our eyes are not just making sure the nursing home gets paid. Our eyes are looking at husband and wife and the kids, okay? Because a lot of times there's been assets intertwined. And we can kind of unravel that, or we can make sense of that, and we can fix those things, okay? Or protect the spouse. A lot of times that's the number one priority, is protect the community spouse, also known as the well spouse. So that's a big objective, and there's ways, a lot of ways you can, in some cases, give all of it to the well spouse and not have to spend down a whole lot of money. I think number 5, when it comes to using a lawyer, is we can help you understand penalties. Sometimes families give money they shouldn't have or give away things they shouldn't have, and a lot of times those are so messy, the nursing home will say, we don't want to touch it. So they will then say, hey, that's too messy. But sometimes they don't check everything to find out those messy things until it's too late, right? So again, this has more to do with the process of making sure you have a good process. You go through those things so you don't have those penalties. Number 6, sometimes we have to appeal. That is, there's a denial, but it was wrong. Maybe a caseworker misread the manual. Maybe they weren't trained well. Maybe they're just wrong. And you have to appeal. And that's going in front of a ALJ judge, an administrative law judge. Do you want an attorney to be in that appeal or the nursing home? I don't even know if the nursing homes do that, right? They probably just deny and refile. But we, if DHS is wrong, we will appeal. And I just got a recent appeal that ALJ judge said, no, DHS was wrong, how they handled it, and they require them to reinstate the denial. And so it's important to know that sometimes it goes to trial. Very important to know that. Number 7, timeliness is important. You got to know that when you get into these cases, DHS will say you got 10 days to respond. If you don't respond in 10 days, you got problems. Now, here's the thing. I think 10 days is ridiculous, but I have to deal with it. By the time I get the letter, okay, I've already marked on my calendar, we're going to ask for an extension, okay? And we have a process to make sure that that happens, because by the time I get it, it's day 3, day 4, I got 6 days left. Chances are the family, the one that we're working with, often the power of attorney, is out of state, on vacation or something. So we can address it immediately. Attorneys understand timeliness and deadlines, and we're going to do everything we can to give you as much time as possible to respond. We're not going to blame you and say, why didn't you get something to us in 3 days? Okay. I've had clients tell me that. They've been blamed. I didn't get documents fast enough. Well, you need to ask for more time. Number 8, sometimes there's legal documents that need to be drafted. And the nursing home, to my knowledge, has never drafted a deed, a power of attorney. They can't. They can't practice law. And so sometimes it's absolutely necessary for us to review a power of attorney and find out, hey, is that a power of attorney even working? Is that even going to do the things that we need to do? So sometimes we have to redo a power of attorney because it just isn't right. Or we have to undo a deed. I see some deeds that were done by attorneys, and I have to say, I have to undo what that attorney did, because that was done by an estate planning attorney, and they don't really do elder law like we do. And so they didn't know what they were doing, so I have to undo what they were doing. I think a lot of times it just comes to peace of mind. You want someone in your corner that is there, who can help you and guide you through that process with compassion, with good bedside manner. And I think those things really are worth having an advocate. I think I'm on number 10 now, I think. Here's the tragedy. When the money is gone and there's still work to do, who pays the attorney to fix the mess? A lot of times, we as an attorney, we could have been paid had things gone better for the nursing home and for the client, and protected assets better than them having done it themselves and messed it up. So it becomes a problem. Well, how do you fix it when all the messes get revealed and there is no money left? So you really have to think. In a lot of cases, think of it this: if the nursing home simply says, just spend the money down. Once you're at $0, we'll apply for Medicaid. You probably would have been better paying an attorney to help you with that process, because you can pay us and not have to pay it to the nursing home. And it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference as far as applying. You might have applied like 2 or 3 months earlier, but if the money is rather going to the nursing home or can go to an attorney, get the attorney to help you through that process. I think lastly, there's just little tips and there's little tricks that we can do to help protect assets. The general rule is that the income that you have goes to the nursing home. So if I'm sick, I go to the nursing home. That money goes to the nursing home. But there are some times we can actually divert that money to the well spouse. And these are impoverishment policies that says, wait, we're taking too much. This well spouse needs the money. And it might be an extra $500. It might be an extra $1,000. But to the spouse who is living at home, every dollar counts. And so it's very important to know those little tips and tricks that can improve the quality of life for everybody. The nursing home, whether they get all the income or less, they're still going to get what their amount is. So the more I can protect for the family, the better. So the quality doesn't really change. Whether someone's self-paying the nursing home or on Medicaid, still same bed, same people. Okay, so it makes sense to kind of protect as much as you can for the well spouse, or in some cases, the children. Some of it at the end, there's this feeling, this emotion that it doesn't seem right when you file these applications, when you tell the nursing home, I'm not going to pay you all the money. That's a weird feeling. You're telling me I only have to pay $1,000? This bill from the nursing home says $8,000. How do I pay that? You're right. I'm right. Just pay that's all you got to pay. Your patient responsibility is $1,000. So the whole process doesn't even seem normal, and it's very, very confusing. And that's what having an elder law attorney does. That's what we help people go through, so that there's answers, there's advocacy, but ultimately your loved one is being cared for, and the benefits that they're getting with Medicaid, they're getting them accelerated. And they've paid Social Security. It's been a line item on the amount of money that they've made in their life. It's a benefit they're entitled to, and we want to help as many people get on that benefit as we can. So I hope this has helped. It just came out of a conversation recently with somebody who said, I just want to do it myself. And there are times when maybe you can do it yourself with the nursing home. But I think the first step, I would say, is check out stage 7 on long-term care. But then also talk to an elder law and sit down with them and go through the process of knowing the pros and cons and the things that you can do to set up your family in the best position possible. Thanks for riding along this special episode of the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Please remember, you can't outrun a hearse, but you can leave your family with a smooth ride.